I've been going to science fiction and fantasy conventions since I was about 19, I guess. And one of the first things I noticed about sci-fi and fantasy conventions were blurred lines. You know, it's a genre where there's so much more blurring, I feel, than in other genres. And it became very clear very quickly that there was an entire gay subset of sci-fi fans, and that was very prominent and welcome. And it was very clear that it was this mishmash community of just a huge range of people who felt out of step with the rest of the world, which I really feel like has a lot to do with why I connected with it, and certainly why I think it appeals to, well, there are a couple of different reasons. I think one of the reasons that it can appeal to a minority culture is purely that in general, people who are really into science fiction and fantasy, not across the board, but in general, tend to understand what it's like to feel different. Most of the sci-fi fantasy fans that I know have experienced, for whatever reason, that comes out in sci-fi people. The other thing is, I think that there's so much more possible in science fiction and fantasy because it's not rooted in what has to happen on a daily basis. The science fiction that I was interested in was not based on physics. It was much more about characters. And both in fantasy settings, where a lot of physics didn't even apply, and in science fiction settings where you could extrapolate either to completely alien cultures or take the human culture to a place that it wasn't currently, you could just expand the boundaries so much further than in romance or mystery or often general literature. And so I do think that there's a big lure because of the ability to stretch reality. And I know that growing up as a trans individual, I did a lot of stretching of reality. I really needed to stretch my definition of reality in my head because I couldn't do it anywhere else. And growing up in that concept of something is so completely wrong and I can't fix it, well, maybe somewhere in my head I can fix it, because there I can just kind of push the boundaries aside.